and welcome to video blog number 3 about learning to play the Melodeon. I'm nearly up to 2 weeks now with this, and I think I'm making a bit of progress. You've just seen me playing the ever popular Winster Gallop, and although I've still got a few problems, I think I'm making a little bit of progress. I've changed the arrangement that I learned in the first place a little bit to suit myself, and I think that's okay to do, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. One of the faults I'm doing is when I'm putting my thumb on the air button, I'm forgetting to take my finger off one of the note buttons, one of the chord buttons, so you get a bit of that. But I mean, you know, it's kind of a nerve thing. But it's actually taken me a lot of practice just to be able to do what I've just played you. Although it's not perfect, it's actually pretty good, considering a couple of days ago I was actually thinking of practically giving up because I was struggling so badly on this. If I just explain what I've done with this a little bit, I realised quite early on when I was playing this piece, and this is the first piece I should explain, this is the first piece that I played using both hands. I realised early on I was trying to think about both hands at the same time. You really can't do that. So what I decided to do was just to think about the right hand and just let the left hand take its course, and with a bit of sort of muscle memory, as I call it, eventually it slotted into place. On the first part of this, right, one thing that was pointed out to me was that I was doing this an awful lot. Now I'm kind of punching it in with my wrist. May not get that right all the while, but it's kind of almost like a jerky thing with the wrist. I think that's right. If it isn't, I'm sure George will tell me. So that's quite a tricky bit there. You've got to go in and out to get that, but it's quite fun to do. And that's all on one row, that's all on the G row. Okay, so not perfect, but not too bad. And then I changed this next bit. I decided the second note there, which I think is it's an F sharp. So what I decided to do there was to play the G with my third finger, and then play the F sharp on the other row, my little finger. That meant I could get both those notes on the push, and I didn't have to worry about the left hand too much. So I was still getting the umpa, G note, G chord, and then I came back to the G row and did a pull. And I was able to do that 3 times. It was on the third time I changed to a C chord with the left hand. So I got. And then here, I was quite pleased. I sort of sorted this out, but I'm going to try and get so you can see this a bit better. I decided to go. Trying to hold that up so you can see it. So I was doing essentially the same thing, but on 2 sets of buttons. So I'm getting the D root note and D chord on the pull, and then on the push. You see, so I wasn't. I was able to keep that D bass note and D chord going, albeit on 2 sets of buttons. So, and then back the other way. So that was quite a coup for me. I was quite pleased with that. It's probably completely wrong, but it kind of worked for me and helped me get into the swing of that a bit. I think it is legitimate to do that, anyway, that's what I've done, and it is far from being perfect, but I feel like I'm somewhere close to getting it the way it should be, and obviously, you know, lots to do. You know, I do know it isn't spot on, and there are mistakes and, you know, technique things, but I can actually sort of knock the tune out now, which is pretty nice. I kind of think of it as a journey when I play a tune. You know, like when you go on a familiar journey, like you walk somewhere that you've walked several times, or you drive somewhere you've driven several times, you almost do it in your sleep. I wouldn't recommend sleeping when you're driving, but you know what I mean. It's kind of a journey, this sort of muscle memory thing, and it's like becomes a familiar journey, and you've almost got to do it without thinking. I was talking to Martin White the other day. He's the guy that sold me this, also really good Melodeon player, and he was saying to me, he was playing something to me. I said, "Oh, how did you do that?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. I was thinking about something else at the time." And there's a lot of wisdom in that. You know, it's actually better to do that. In fact, I did this earlier, naturally when the video wasn't on. I actually played this probably a bit better than I played it earlier in this video. I probably played it a bit better, and I wasn't even thinking about it. So you've almost got to, you know, you've got to practice it, you've got to learn it. Once you've learned it, it's almost better not to think about it. And as I say, you might even want to try it closing your eyes. But I would really recommend just concentrating on the right hand, or maybe on the left hand. If your right hand, you find your right hand really easy and your left hand hard, concentrate on that. But you can't do both. You can't split your brain into two and concentrate on two things at the same time. I'm trying to be a bit more economical with the bellows, as I'm not doing this extravagant, lifting up, and I'm trying to, just sort of pushing it. It's I call it like a little punchy, stabby action, and I hope that is right. And again, I'm open to criticism. If you want to tell me that's wrong, that's absolutely fine. And I was told to sort of make the bellows more sort of fan-shaped, and sort of like that way. So the bottom is tighter than the top, and do it that way. Obviously, depending on how much you need in terms of bellows. It is a bit of a problem with the Melodeon. You run out of bellows quite quickly, especially if you're playing lots of chords, because they eat up the air really quickly in the bellows. So this is my third blog, and that's a bit of progress for me, I think. And there's a few things that I wanted to share with you, things that I've sort of sorted out since the last time that might help you if you're learning like me. I was talking about playing the scale, and I initially did a 1-octave scale, and I was talking about the intervals, the tone on the rest of it, and tone, semitone, and that is of course the classic formula for a major scale. So from here to here, tone, and then tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And in terms of pushing and pulling, you've got push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull, push, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull, push. And that gives you your first octave. And I was playing that in G. Let's do it in D. And you can actually do that without actually moving the bellows in and out at all, really. You just do it by waggling. Whether that's technically correct, I'm not sure, but have a look. Let's get a bit more bellows. And of course you can do that with 4 fingers. And then I explored doing the second octave, because obviously you can play 2 octaves. Let's go back to G and just play it for you. Right, fingering was all over the place, but you could hear that it was the same thing repeated, an octave and then another octave, and it gets pretty squeaky up that end, doesn't it? I'm not sure I'll ever play any of those notes, but it does get pretty squeaky. So in terms of pushing and pulling, you've got to start at the beginning. Push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull, push. Button 7 now. Pull, push, button 8, pull, push. Button 9, just to pull, jump to 10 and pull, and come back to 9 and push. It's pretty weird that, isn't it, the way it comes back, because the intervals are obviously very different up there. So the whole 2-octave thing is push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull, push, pull, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull, push. Okay? And in terms of bellows, it's going up, in, out. It sounds like the Okie Kokie, doesn't it? In, out, in, out, in, out, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, out, in, and pretty high up. Let's do the same thing in D now. Let's bring it down now. And that is a really good thing to practice because it kind of gets you knowing your keyboard. When you're trying to figure out a tune, you can almost feel where the note is if you know how your keyboard works. So that's a really good thing to practice. And you've got root notes on buttons 3, 6, 9, all on the push. And by root note, of course, in D, we're talking about, in the key of D, we're talking about the note D, and in the key of G, we're talking about the note G. And a 2-octave major scale is 15 notes, because not 16 as you might imagine, 2 times 8, because of course the note in the middle is the root note, and it becomes the last note of the first octave and the first note of the second octave. So I'll show you what I mean. You've got D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, and there's your D again. And when you start the second octave, okay, your D is like the last note of the previous octave and the first note of the second one, if that makes any kind of sense to you. So we've talked about tones and semitones. It's very important that you understand what they are. I think some people, when they start, they hear these words bandied about, tone, semitone, they think they are notes, but they aren't notes, they're distances between notes. In Western music, the shortest distance between two notes is a semitone. There is a semitone. That's actually an F sharp going to a G. And a tone is 2 semitones. Okay, so in that case I'm playing a G, I'm going up to an A, and obviously there's a G sharp in the middle of those 2 notes that we don't sound. So tones and semitones. In the last blog I talked about sort of intervals, like major thirds and fourths and fifths, and maybe that was a bit unnecessary at this stage, but you know, I'm sort of feeling my way with this a little bit as I'm going. I'd actually figured out some chords last time, and I showed you that you had all these major chords in the 2 keys, and I did say you had a 7th there, so that was in the key of G, so you had a D7 to a G, and there we had an A7 to a D. And so here we had an A minor there, and we had an E minor there. Now you can of course cross rows and get chords, and I've been figuring out a few of those which you might find quite interesting. Obviously you've got some chords with the left hand, and I talked about those last time, but you might want, for instance, an A major chord, and you get one of those by doing this. So to get an A major chord, if you pull the bellows out, hold buttons 2 and 3 in the D row and button 3 in the G row, that's an A major chord. Okay, so you press down buttons 2 and 3 in the D row, button 3 in the G row, and pull, and that is an A chord. If you hold down button 3 in the D row and buttons 3 and 4 in the G row and pull, that's an A minor. Different inversions. See, that one's higher. This one is a little bit lower down. So major, A major, and then A minor. And if you're not sure of the difference between major and minor, A major is 3 notes, A, C sharp and E, and A minor is 3 notes, A, C and E. You notice the difference, it's the one in the middle is a C rather than a C sharp. And the way to remember it is the distance between A and C is less than the distance between A and C sharp, and that's why it's called minor, because it's lesser, it's like a minor, it's a lesser distance between the A and the C sharp and the A to the C. So that's how we remember it. So there's a nice A minor there, and there's a sorry, wrong one, A major and then A minor. Now we can get C and B minor, 2 for the price of 1 here. If you hold buttons 3 and 4 down in the D row and button 4 in the G row and pull, that's the C major, and if you push it, it becomes B minor. Pull, push, and you can get the same thing, a C on the pull, a B minor on the push, if you hold down button 4 on the D row and buttons 4 and 5 on the G row. So C major, B minor. And since you've got that, and then you've got that. Same chords, different inversions. If you hear that term inversion, it just literally means what it says, turning it on its head. You just swap the notes round. As long as you're playing the 3 basic notes, so for B minor you need B, D and F sharp in any combination, and for C you need C, E and G in any combination. So there's a lovely tune to finish with, and it's called the Waters of Tyne, and it's a waltz, and it starts on beat 3 of the first bar. So 1, 2. There we go, hope you liked it and thanks for watching. See you in blog 4.